Hello there, my very good friends. On today's After News, we're going to talk about Ronda Rousey potentially training for a WWE comeback.
But it doesn't look like Ronda Rousey is going to be involved in this year's Royal Rumble. Neither will Becky Lynch or Brock Lesnar.
And Roman Reigns' WrestleMania 37 opponent has been finalised.
I'm Adam Wilborn.
I'm Andy Murray.
And this is the After News.
News coaster. Does that still exist? I'm not sure. If it does, I'm sure our lovely editor Adam Nicholas will fill it in to this spot. Anyway, let's kick things off talking about Ronda Rousey. A word from Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter is that she has been training professional wrestling over the past few months. Meltzer brings up her name as part of a write-up in the Wrestling Observer newsletter about the Royal Rumble, basically talking about how Ronda is the biggest surprise that WWE could realistically pull off in the women's match. And, he's right when he says that. She's been absent since WrestleMania 35, when, of course, she put over Becky Lynch in a triple threat that also had Charlotte Flair, Raw Women's title, SmackDown Women's title, first ever women's main event in WrestleMania history. Kind of like a big deal. But she's not been seen since. Ronda's name is always the subject of speculation, right? Barely a month passes without someone going, hey, Ronda Rousey might be coming back. All right, cool. When's it happening? Don't know. And that's kind of the same situation here. However, if Ronda Rousey is training professional wrestling stuff, it nudges her a little bit closer to a comeback. So she's somebody I would like to see back in the company at some point, and preferably soon, because I think she's really good and I loved her first run. But I know also that she's someone who splits opinion somewhat among the WWE fan base. We had Charlotte Flair even on the podcast earlier this week saying that WWE doesn't need Ronda Rousey, even though she's obviously beneficial to have around. So it would be cool to see her back. Whether or not she does is a different matter.
Yeah, personally, I'd love to see her back. I know, she's had a bit of back and forth with wrestling fans in general when it comes to her views. I don't know whether she was working that or that was her genuine beliefs when she was just sort of riling people up. But, I mean, she's a megastar, isn't she? And she was just sensational. One of the greatest rookie years in wrestling history, in my opinion. So it'd be great to have her back. Just to continue on that story, it sort of relates to mine. Dave continues in the Observer regarding Rousey that she is not scheduled to be involved in this year's Royal Rumble match. Still decent odds on her actually winning the whole thing. The last time I looked, it was like 10-1, maybe 20-1 in terms of the longest odds you could get on her. He also clarifies, doesn't look like Becky Lynch is going to be involved. That kind of makes sense. She's literally just had a baby. I realise people are like, well, you've had the baby now, but come on, give her a break here.
Yeah,
and,
man.
There's more chance of, say, someone like a Seth Rollins, as we talked about in this morning news, coming back. I think Becky, it's probably going to be post-WrestleMania if we do see her back. And in terms of Brock Lesnar, he is not under contract with WWE at the moment. He's not scheduled for the show. Obviously, the whole contract thing is kind of a straightforward thing. If he wants to do it and WWE wants him to do it, there's going to be no difficulty there. They're just going to throw bucket loads of the Peacock money at him, no doubt. Interesting thing about Ronda Rousey, though, she's still under WWE contract until the 10th of April, which would be day one of WrestleMania. Again, a bit like with Brock, you assume that if both sides wanted to do it, it's not going to be too difficult to add another day or another year on that contract. But yes, Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar, it looks like they are all not going to be involved in the Rumble, which is a disappointment, but understandable as well, Andy, because we've talked about this in the past. If there's ever going to be a year where they arguably don't need the megastars, first of all, because I think people would be very happy if you picked almost any of the top 5 contenders to win both the men's and women's Royal Rumble match. You're talking Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, etc. Maybe slightly divisive to have Alexa Bliss, but there's a lot of corners of wrestling internet that would like to see that. And then on the men's side of things, I mean, take your bloody pick. Daniel Bryan, hard favourite for that. Then you've got Big E, Shinsuke, Nakamura, the list goes on and on and on. Keith Lee, of course, has been mentioned in and around it. So if they're not there, it'll be a shame, but it's also okay, I think, especially because if they did show up, if you did play, Bad Reputation or whatever, it's not going to get the same reaction because it's just someone pressing pop.wav.
Pop.wav, exactly. It's going to be the weirdest Royal Rumble of all time. It just is. And, the greatest Royal Rumble exists. So that's really quite the statement. The digital atmospheres. Yeah, I'm still looking forward to it, man, because, it's such a cliche, right? But even bad Royal Rumbles are still kind of good. So it'll still be a lot of fun, I'm sure, even without bigger names on tap. But at the same time, with the WWE Network's prominence, WWE for the past 6-7 years haven't had to sell pay-per-views anyway. So there's always been for that period of time a diminished incentive to promote big things on this, because they don't have to sell you anything anymore, brothers and sisters. TV dominates all. Pay-per-view buy rates aren't a thing anymore. So
I think all three of those megastars, though, you may well see them at WrestleMania or the few nights after WrestleMania, because once the possibility of them coming back and Becky Lynch returning is more and more likely the more time passes in 2021, but also the more chance you're going to get them coming back when they've actually got fans to react to them returning.
Yeah, exactly. And, it'll give Becky, for example, a more realistic, maybe not a realistic, but a more realistic window to recover from the rigors of childbirth. And maybe the ongoing global bastard will have calmed down a little bit there, and Brock will get out of his hunting cabin in Canada and go, right, let's kick some goddamn ass. But speaking of WrestleMania 37, again, Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, the trolls are really going to love this video, saying that WWE has finalised its first match for WrestleMania 37. They've ironed one out, they've nailed it down, it's happening. It's Roman Reigns versus... we don't know.
Roman Reigns versus anyone other than Shinsuke Nakamura.
Yeah, that's literally the story. It is not Shinsuke Nakamura. Shinsuke Nakamura, as things currently stand, not wrestling for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania 37. He had been brought up as a potential opponent as recently as last week. Of course, he had the surge on SmackDown in the Gauntlet match recently where he really looked great and had a lot of people clamouring behind him once again for the first time in what felt like a long time, leading to talk of a potential main event ascension. Who knows, maybe he'll challenge Reigns at Elimination Chamber. Maybe they'll do that instead. But it's not him at the Rumble. This would leave you with, a handful of opponents you could pick for Reigns. Not a great deal, I don't think. I think this narrows it down a little bit. Daniel Bryan is a strong choice. Big E, strong choice. The Rock's not happening. But it would be the biggest match they could possibly put together. Aside from that, maybe John Cena. He's going to be at the show. That was reported the other week. But they figured out what they're doing with Reigns. That's one match confirmed. We are, 2.5, 3 months out? Whatever. I can't do maths. I used to be an accountant, but I can't do maths. What do you reckon?
I think this all makes complete sense. Hearing this story makes me more and more excited and confident that it is going to be Daniel Bryan winning the Royal Rumble and going on to face Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I think the odds were like 1-1 when I last checked. And generally around this time of year, the bookies don't get this sort of thing that wrong if they're that confident. So it would make sense that so far in advance of WrestleMania, they would have that nailed on. They'd have sorted it all out. It's a great story. It's bloody typical that Daniel Bryan will win the Royal Rumble with no one in attendance, but regardless, that doesn't diminish the fact that it's the right way to go. And in terms of Shinsuke Nakamura, if you're disappointed about him, like you say, Andy, I think you could have a match with Roman as a part of some big Elimination Chamber match, or even a one-on-one match at Fastlane ahead of WrestleMania. And for me, it's really easy to book Nakamura at WrestleMania, have him face Cesaro, and they'll probably have a contender for match of the night.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a really great pairing for that show. And, they've got all that history together over the past year or so. Two of the best wrestlers in the company on their day. Why the hell not?
By the way, great recent photo of John Cena looking an absolute piece with that new hair. Oh,
it's beautiful. Can you imagine him hitting the bloody lightning fist with that hairdo? God damn.
Oh my days.
I'm here for it.
Let us know your thoughts on that. All the discussions around the Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey and Brock Lesnar in the comments section below. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from for daily wrestling podcasts. Load of great Royal Rumble content coming out over the next few days. And of course, join us for our Royal Rumble live stream on Sunday night for all our reactions to the madness that is the first step on the road to WrestleMania. You can let us know your thoughts and Twitter questions as well on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch there, follow both of us. You can follow Andy Murray at
Andy H. Murray. The H stands for...
That's the noise he makes when he has to do the news in the afternoon. You can follow me on Twitter at Adam Wilborn. Follow us all at WhatCultureWWE. But for now, my thanks to Andy Murray. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon. And enjoy the Rumble again.
Leg!